Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, as you know, in the early 2000s, the Fed stood by and failed to use its authorities to regulate and supervise the biggest banks in this country. And the result was a financial crash that cost millions of families their jobs, millions their homes, millions their savings. That's why I believe that vigilant regulation is an essential part of the Fed's job. Chair Powell, you recently stated that it would be appropriate, quote, for a new person to come in and look at the current state of regulation and supervision and suggest appropriate changes, end quote. Is that still your position?
Yes, it is.
The press also reported this as your agreement to defer to the vice chair for supervision. So I want to ask you a specific example of how that deference would work in practice. If you're confirmed and if the new vice chair for supervision suggests a regulatory action that you disagree with, will you bring that matter before the full Federal Reserve Board for consideration?
So let me just say that what the law does is the law gives the vice chair for supervision the authority to set the regulatory and supervisory agenda. And I would expect to have a perfectly normal, good, constructive working relationship with a new vice chair for supervision. I would not see myself as stopping those kind of proposals from reaching the board, since the law seems to indicate that that's the job of the vice chair for supervision.
Good. I'm just trying to be clear on your understanding of it. So you would bring that before the full board for consideration, even if you personally disagree?
You know, that'd be my general intent, yes.
Okay.
I can't cover every possible conceivable situation, but yes, that's my understanding of how this is the only other office that has specific legislative grant is the vice chair for supervision, and that's what the job is.
Okay, I appreciate that. So you're saying you would do it, and you would actually feel like you were legally bound to do it?
I'd say that the law, that's how I read the law.
Okay. If the vice chair for supervision recommends a regulatory action with which you disagree, such as undoing a rule that Vice Chair Quarles brought forth and that you voted in favor of it, what does it mean to defer under such circumstances? I just want to understand your thinking here.
I don't think I used the term defer. You mentioned that was a press report.
Yeah.
You know, we're a commission structure. The person is not the comptroller of the currency, where they're the sole voice. Every vice chair for supervision and those who held the job before there was a formal job, they have to convince the other members of the board, and that's how it works, and that's how I would expect it to work going forward.
And I appreciate that, but your specific language was that you would respect that authority, which is, I believe, why many in the press interpreted that as defer, and that's why I'm trying to understand what respect that authority, those were your words, means.
You know, I would say a couple of things. First, respect the authority to bring these proposals. I also think a person who arrives, nominated by the president, confirmed by this body, with particular views, I would say that person is entitled to a degree of deference, but I wouldn't overstate that. The person still will have to convince the members of the board to vote for whatever that person is proposing.
Okay, and then if I can, just one more example. If the person in this role proposed new capital requirements to incorporate banks' exposure to climate risks, would you vote for that?
Would I vote for that? I'd have to see what you're really specifically talking about.
Okay. All right. It's very helpful. I appreciate your answers here. You know, during the last 4 years, while the Fed was chipping away at regulations piece by piece, new and emerging threats to our financial system continued to grow. I just think about the list right now. Climate change. Right now, climate change is on pace to depress the global economic output by as much as $23 trillion annually by 2050. Crypto, the market cap of cryptocurrency market is now $3 trillion, 6 times bigger than it was just a year ago. And this is explosive growth that is coupled with almost no regulation and no guardrails to protect either investors or our financial system. The crash scenario here writes itself. Non-bank financial institutions grow bigger by the day. BlackRock alone manages nearly twice as much money as the entire economy of Japan, while the Fed refuses to work to declare them a systemically significant financial institution. Growth in collateralized loan obligations, a new COVID variant, the list goes on. This is why I believe that the Fed must take a much more active role on regulation. Failure to do so puts our entire economy at risk. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Warren. Senator Haggerty of Tennessee is recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Brown, Ranking Member Toomey. I appreciate your holding the hearing today. Secretary Yellen, Chair Powell, thank you for your testimony. Chair Powell, I want to congratulate